I'll do the review for that here in just a few seconds, as soon as I get done with these reminders. This up. Okay, you've also got an exercise you're working on. That's due, let's see, just before Thanksgiving, just afterwards. It's due the week of Thanksgiving. It has this. What I'm going to do is, I'd like to get it then, but if you need the extra time, I'll accept it the Tuesday after you come back from Thanksgiving. But I don't promise to have all the results back to you in time for you to make a decision about taking the final exam. You only got, if we come back from Thanksgiving, you only have 1 week after that. So you will not know your grade. Remember, I'm allowing people to drop the final if you've averaged 3 points on both those papers. As a consequence, I would like to get it before Thanksgiving. Then I'll have them graded. I'll take Thanksgiving, come back, the paper's ready for you. And that way you'll know whether you can skip the final or not. I will accept them Tuesday of that last week of classes, but you will not know before you walk in the door whether you take the final or not. That's the only problem. So I would still like to get them on the original scheduled date, but I will accept them the Tuesday after as well. Yeah.
For those who would turn them in the Tuesday after, if they got 5 points or more on the first paper, then by default wouldn't they have, assuming that they got the paper, turned in the paper that they averaged?
Yeah, if you turn something in at all, as long as it's clearly something you actually wrote, then you'll probably get at least a point for that. And you can pretty much assume, yeah, that you'll be able to skip the final. But not everybody's going to be in that position. Most people probably will not be in that position. I think the average grade was about 3-4 points on these papers, 3 or 4 points. So you need to get 2 or 3 points in order to be able to skip the final.
So if you didn't do the first paper, but you did the second paper and got 6 points,
No.
then
Nope. I said that from the very beginning. Nope. Now, you can do, I'm still accepting the blank papers. You can go ahead and do it. I mean, you're not going to get many points for it. Just do something so you get 1 point. And then that paper works that way. So with a minimal amount of effort on this first paper, then yes, you can go ahead and do it that way. That's the smart thing to do, frankly. Okay, so any other comments or concerns? Remember, the paper itself, an exercise in poverty. You can do it either by way of a traditional research paper on welfare. Tell me what's wrong, tell me what's right with welfare, do something about it. Now, you can find that welfare is a great program, you can extend it to more people. Or you can find it is the devil's spawn, but you need to support either one of those with evidence. Back it up. I would like to have you use one of the theories from class, functionalism, conflict theory, someplace inside that assignment. In that sense, that paper, at least in structure, not the focus, but in structure, looks a lot like the first paper. Instead of deviance, you're focusing on welfare, what to do about it, reform, use a theory, but mainly you're talking in terms of data. But the second paper, the second alternative is the one that I really like the best, and the only reason I don't require that of everybody is because for legal reasons. The second alternative, there's a whole bunch of alternatives you can choose to do, but you go out in the field. You can take a bus from Barrio Logan to La Jolla. You can go into an elementary school where there is in a poor neighborhood, interview a teacher. You can shop for an apartment. How much? Assume you're a single mom or a single parent. You got 2 kids. Try and find the cheapest 2-bedroom apartment you can. Talk to somebody who's on welfare. Talk to somebody who is homeless. Go to a homeless shelter. Interview somebody. All that stuff is just an experience. It's kind of field research. You go into the field and you talk to poor people. There's a series of alternatives you can choose from on that list. You must do 3 of them. 3 of them. One of which must be starred. The stars are interviewing somebody. So you actually have to physically talk to somebody. So you must actually do that. Then write that up. Tell me what you thought about it. What it told you about poverty. Did it surprise you? Did it reinforce your expectations? That's about 3 to 4 points. That's the maximum you can get for doing what I just described. If you want more than that, then you must add data to that. You interviewed that homeless person. That guy was 58 years old, a white male who had been in the U.S. Navy for 20 years. He was clearly an alcoholic. Okay? Compare that to what we know in general about homelessness. There's plenty of data sites about that kind of stuff. So, what does it tell us about homelessness in general in this country? How does he compare to that general tendency, or California? You can even find some evidence about San Diego as well. Okay, so that's what you do if you want that. The reason why I don't require that of everybody, as I said, is for legal reasons. The risk is that you could get hurt doing the assignment. Especially you're going into a poor part of town, you're interviewing a homeless person. I mean, use common sense. I mean, you don't go in the middle of the night down a dark alley to interview that homeless person. It is okay to do the assignment, the exercise portion of it, the field portion of it, in groups. I don't want to seem sexist about it, but I obviously encourage women to go with a larger number of people. The women are the guys from class when you go to interview that homeless person. When I first tried to do this assignment, I had to get approval by the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs because of the risk. If you got hurt doing that, you could do what? Sue. So I was told by the lawyer at the time, if I force you to do it, yes, I could be sued, the school could be sued, and they were mainly concerned about the school, not about me. But they said, if I give you a choice, and each choice is worth the same, I'm not pushing you one way or the other in terms of points, then you have made the choice, and the school and I are now no longer eligible to be sued. So that's why you got the choice. But here's the real truth. I would feel horrible if anybody got hurt. And I will also be honest that here a few years ago, I had a student, a large male student, who was interviewing a small homeless person, but very paranoid, schizophrenic homeless person. My big student loomed over him, scared the poo-poo out of the homeless person, and he pulled a knife. Now, just because my student was big did not mean he wasn't freaked out by having somebody pull a knife on him. Now, the homeless person didn't actually attack him. Get the fuck away from me. Okay, so be careful. Don't do stupid stuff. You are welcome to do anything else besides the stuff I have listed there. If you happen to know a police officer or you're interested in police work, you can do a ride-along. Somebody may have a relative who's a teacher in a poor inner-city school. Someone may have a sister, a brother, a cousin who is on welfare. You may do charity work with your church, getting close to Thanksgiving. Any of that stuff is okay to do if you check with me first to make sure it's relevant for the assignment and safe. I had a student who thought that would be homeless for a weekend. He would go downtown and live on the streets for a weekend. That's interesting. I don't want you doing that. That's way too risky. Also, I shouldn't have to say this. Please, and this is more a guy problem than a girl problem, and that is, don't insult the people you're researching. Some guy can be kind of insensitive. Dude, my teacher told me I was supposed to interview a loser. I have chosen you. That one I made up, but here's what actually happened. A student asked me, how about this? Can I go down into the homeless area and pay a couple of bums to have a bum fight? No, you're an idiot. I would pay the homeless person to beat the crap out of you, though. So don't do that stuff. Guys, come on, guys. Put the testosterone away a little bit. All right. And then finally, and I shouldn't have to say this either, please don't do anything illegal. I had a student here a few years ago that got a bright idea that what she would do, instead of researching welfare, she would apply for it and lie. She looked like she was like 12 years old. She claimed she had 3 children and she applied for welfare. What she did not recognize is in the city of San Diego, which is where she lived, they take welfare fraud very seriously. They do not send a social worker out to investigate. They send a police officer. She got the knock on the door. There stood the cop with a very large caliber weapon on his side, and she freaked out and said, "What? My teacher made me do it." Nah. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Okay, so let me make this perfectly clear. Do not do anything illegal. Do not apply for welfare. Do not sell drugs. Do not engage in acts of prostitution. And if you get caught doing any of that, by God, don't blame me. All right, I shouldn't say this, but that seems to be the reality. Okay, any questions on this assignment? Okay, again, I'd like to get it on the original due date, which is before Thanksgiving, but I will accept it to Tuesday when you come back. But with no guarantee, you'll know whether you can skip the fun. Okay. Did you have a question? No. Okay. All right, let's do the review for the quiz, real quick. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to anything associated with it. So let me just quickly go through the lecture notes. Well, I'm not going to bother lecture notes, I'm just going to go through my PowerPoint. All right, so we talked about, all this stuff is potentially on your quiz. Nature versus nurture. The debate about what makes us human. Language, ability to reason.
Professor?
Yeah.
Can you turn off?
So could you just turn that down?
Just that once before.
So again, nature versus nurture, the debate, what makes us human, the characteristics of reasoning and language use. We'd like to do an experiment in which we take a child at the moment of birth, separate it from their parents, carefully raise it without any human contact. We can't do that for moral reasons. We've looked, therefore, at situations that come close to that. First, feral children raised by animals. That evidence implies the importance of nurture. We looked at children raised in semi-isolation, that tragic story of certain kinds of abuse, where a parent or a grandparent just locks up a newborn baby and just feeds it and does virtually nothing else. What do you get? An animal, indicating the importance of nurture. The Harlow monkey studies. Monkeys raised in isolation become weird little monkeys. They won't even engage in those basic of biologically motivated behaviors like reproduction, indicating the importance of nurture. Then we turned around and looked at some biologically based, some nature-based explanations for human brain development. The brain is an organ, it grows, and as it grows in sophistication, so does the kind of information it can process. 4 stages according to Piaget. The sensory motor, 0 to 2 years old, child lack things like object permanence. Sensing and moving. Pre-operations, 2 to 7 years old. Language development is age. The children lack understanding of the physical world. Pour water from one glass into another. If the shape of those glasses are different, that child thinks there's more or less depending upon that shape. The stage of concrete operations. Here the child gets the operations on the physical world, but does not have abstract deductive reasoning. This is from 7 to about 12. The formal operations stage, at adolescence. Here the child develops the ability to do deductive reasoning. Okay, that's Piaget. Cooley, the looking glass self. We are who other people